Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about our trades for the week starting 9/10/2023, buys, sells, dividends, and our strategy and what we took profit on, what we put our money into, and what we're going to be doing going forward. So the first thing that we want to bring up is that we took profits on Tesla, USOI, and Clip. The amount of money that we made on that, unfortunately, we can't show you our spreadsheets. So the amount of money that we made on that was 38.56. As you guys can see here on the dividend summary, we also got paid some dividends from Beto, TLTW, 3M, and Walgreens Boots Alliance. So this is the dividend amount. I'll be adding that up along with the profits that we realized. And again, we did reposition ourselves after we took profit. We told you guys before that this is our strategy. So the total amount we have made so far in gains on the week is $45.07. Keep in mind that the Yield Max payment date is coming up on the 18th. So next week we'll be receiving those dividends. This will be looking much different next week. So the other thing that I want to go over with you guys is the unrealized gains on our Grayscale, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash Trust positions. So as you guys can see, we have added some shares to Litecoin. We've opened up a new position in BCHG. And we're sitting in unrealized profit on these positions, about another $50. If we were to sell right now, we would be up basically about $100 in the week. So not bad for a bearish September month, right? So there's that. Let's go ahead and get into the different positions that we opened up. So since we're on this page, we're going to start with this page. Actually, no, I take that back. I'm gonna pull something up here for you guys real quick so you can see. Just so you guys know, nothing has changed on the dividend growth stock perspective. We have not added nor sold any positions we're holding at this point in time. Reason being is we want to up our yield max positions and get ready for the next crypto cycle. Once we feel we've acquired a sufficient amount of funds in those positions, we will probably start adding to some dividend growth positions. So if you guys look here, you can see that Beto is no longer here. So we did actually change our minds on this. We decided to sell out of our position. We're going to go ahead and take a look at where it's at. So you got the Beto position here. As you guys can see, we took an unrealized loss of, a realized loss of $443.05 minus the dividends, down $366. So you guys might be wondering, well, why exactly did you sell for a loss? You said initially that you weren't going to sell. Yes, that is correct. We did. But when we reevaluated the position and considered the opportunity cost, took into account how many losses we've taken this year, which has been very, very small in comparison to the amount of gains we've made, we decided that taking one single, somewhat larger loss for the entire year is not a bad deal. Now, keep in mind, guys, we've only taken, I think, 3 or 4 losses total this year, and they've been very, very small. I mean, the next largest loss that we had was $100 on Compound, which would have actually, it's a cryptocurrency. We would have actually made about $500 on the position if we had waited just a couple of days later, but we wanted to get the money out and get it into some dividend paying stocks. So, that's our bad for not being as patient as we probably should have, but our total losses for the entire year, the total summation of it's roughly about, I think, somewhere between $400 to $600. And we've made easily 50 times that amount of money in profit this year. So we're not too concerned about a small loss. And we're also rolling forward some tax loss harvesting from last year into this year. So that will automatically offset any gains that we make this year in the 2024 tax season. So where did we move this money? Well, basically what we did is we took a small amount of it. As you guys know, NVIDIA, Aptly, and OARC is now available on M1. We took a tiny piece of it. We're adding a few shares to NVIDIA to get some diversity. We'll go over the strategy a little bit later on what we intend to do with that. So the next position, as you guys can see, we added quite a bit of cash here. Pretty much what we're looking to do is we're looking to have an even spread between BCHG and LTCN. We would like to have at least $1,000 in each position. So what is the reason why we took the loss in order to move our money? Well, part of the reason is we intend to boost our passive income. As you guys can see here, we have a lot of cash sitting here. We have been and also want to get our positions moved up. So as you guys can see, we have increased some of these positions. We want to get all of these plus Enflea up to at least 20 shares each in Robinhood. So that's the reason why we have all this cash here. We added some cash to Fidelity with the intention of getting each one of these positions up to $1,000 each. And we also used, I think, about $500 or $600 of that money to pay off a little bit of debt. So that's kind of our game plan with that. In addition to increasing our capital and our passive income every single month, on top of that, we also want to widen the gap between our overall income and our expenses, and also our overall income and our debt. So the wider that we can get that spread, the more fully prepared we will be for the upcoming crypto bull run. So why did we decide to move roughly about half of the money that we sold out of Bito into this position? Well, we're going to go over that right now. So as you guys can see here, we've gone over these charts before. LTCN is a Grayscale Litecoin trust. Grayscale has multiple trusts. They have one on Bitcoin, Litecoin. I believe they have one on Ethereum. They have one on Stellar Lumens and also Bitcoin Cash. So we chose Bitcoin or Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash specifically because of the upside potential. Whenever we take a look at trades, we're always taking a look at the previous top of a cycle to give us some kind of indication of what the upside could be, okay? So at the current price of, I can't get the exact number here, but basically at the current price of $4.76, you see here at the previous peak is roughly about 100x that. If we take $1,000 times, we'll just say we get even half of that. I mean, are we willing to take a $400 or $500 loss to potentially 100x that amount in terms of a gain? Absolutely. If we be even more ridiculous and we say it does go back to the previous peak, creates like a double top or triple top in this case, then it would definitely be worth it. And same thing for BCHG. It's currently at $1.67. It would be roughly about a 35 to 40x from where it's at now. We're not going to be too mad if we get a 35x on this. As you can see, it would be quite a lot. So the opportunity cost for us was greater than the potential loss in the long term than the potential loss would have been in the immediate short term. So we really don't like to take losses at all. That's the reason why we've only taken 4 this year. We've only lost about $600, but again, we've made roughly about 25x that. We choose to usually only sell when we have a gain. But the reason why we sold at a loss this time is because, again, the opportunity cost here is too great for us to miss out on the potential gains. And we've already calculated the risk or the reward versus risk. The reward far outweighs the risk here. So for us personally, we think that it's a better idea just to take the loss now and recoup that money going into the next big stock and crypto bull cycle. So that's our position on Bito and what we've decided to do with the funds. Now let's get into the different positions that we actually bought into for the week. Nothing's changed on any of these up here. The reason why is because we're at our current share counts. As you guys can see on ACP, we're over 100 shares. We basically told you guys anything that was valued at $10, we want to have 100 shares, $20, 50 shares, $30, we want to have, I would say, roughly around 40 shares, $40 to $50, somewhere around 20 shares, and anything ranging from 50 to $100, we want to have 10 shares. And that includes dividend growth stocks. So you guys can see, I mean, we need to add a little to this, but we're pretty much roughly right about where we want to be on a lot of these positions. Where this starts to cut off is basically, and take a look at this. So I think where the positions that we basically want to add is from BSTZ pretty much all the way down, with the exception of Zim. We're not going to add any more Zim until we see them pay an actual dividend again. But all these positions right here, we want to stack up some shares in these. So the positions that we recently added to, trying to think of which ones they were. So RA is one of the positions we added to. I don't know the exact share count, but we've added quite a bit. I think we're up like roughly around 15, 20 shares on this. Just so you guys know, RA recently did have a dividend cut. It's probably not going to show up until October though. You guys can look that up for yourself. Just type in RA dividend cut. You'll see what I'm talking about. But in the month of September, we basically were buying this thing in mass pretty much right up into the X date with the intention of getting paid 20 cents a share. So we've added to this position. We want to get this up to, I would say, at least 50 shares in the immediate short term. Over the long term, maybe 100 shares. Another one that we've added a little bit of CLM. Again, in concurrence with the X date. If we go here to the X date, you guys can see that it just recently passed. So we basically added like a few shares in here pretty much right before the X date. So there's that. We're up to 10 shares. We want to get to at least 100 of these. We actually used to have several hundred of both CLM and CRF. But again, we sold at a gain, not at a loss, and we moved that money into Tesla. Trying to think of what else we added to. We added a little bit of Horizon here. I think we just added 5 shares yesterday. So we went from, I think it was about 1 share, half a share, up to 5 shares. Again, we want to get Horizon to at least 50 shares. Yeah, as you guys can see, the X day is pretty much coming up. So yesterday's trading session would have more or less been the last day that we could have picked this up before the X date. If we pick any shares up on Monday, we're not going to get paid for those shares on that day because the actual trade activity on M1 Finance does not happen until the next morning. So we just kind of have to hold off on that for now. That's pretty much it on this front. Oh yeah, another thing that we wanted to show you guys, we did actually sell USOI at a profit. We added back to the position because again, we always want to be in these positions at least to some extent to receive the dividend payment. And the other position that we added to is, just so you guys can see, there's OARC and Aptly. We're going to add some to this portfolio at some point in time. But we also added back to GSBD. So this is the Goldman Sachs BDC. We added some money back to it. As you guys can see, it had a gain yesterday. We did sell for a small profit, nothing too extreme. We added some shares to LTCN. We're at 149 shares now. We added some shares to BCHG. This is actually a new position, by the way. We're at 124 shares. Again, we want to get to at least 1,000 each on these. We are currently sitting in profit, but for these are technically swing trades. But the reason why we're trying to get in now is because, as you guys know, the halving of Bitcoin is going to happen next April, and usually Bitcoin starts moving towards its all-time highs and breaching all-time highs roughly about 6 to 8 months after the halving event. Well, when you think about the long-term capital gains tax implications of that, if you buy something and you sell it within 12 months, you pay short-term capital gains, which is a higher tax bracket. But if you sell after 12 months, that's a long-term capital gains, which means a lower tax bracket. Okay? So if we position ourselves now in September, we'll say September, October, and November of this year, by September, October, November of next year, we will be in the long-term capital gains tax category, which means it doesn't matter how much money we make, we're going to pay a lot less in taxes. Most likely, instead of paying like 25, 30%, we'll only pay 15%. So we're going to get to keep a lot more of that money because we planned ahead of time. So this is what it looks like right now. We're in profit. We don't plan on selling this until, I would say, at least October, November of next year, January of 2025, when the peak of the next bull cycle happens or close to it. The other thing to keep in mind with these is there was one outlier here. I've mentioned this before, and that is the SEC losing to Grayscale in court. If the SEC is forced to allow Grayscale to convert its current trusts into the form of a Bitcoin spot ETF or any kind of spot ETF, Litecoin spot ETF, so on and so on, that could cause the crypto market to spike massively before the halving event. That's the reason. That's another reason why we're positioned right now, is that could also happen as well. So as one thing we want to point out about oil, and again, this is in line with our strategy. We're going to pull up the oil chart here. As you guys can see, oil basically since it bottomed out at 66 has been mooning. USOI is a futures oil traded ETF, so they trade oil futures. We actually trade oil futures too directly as day traders. But you guys can basically see that this thing has popped off massively. Again, the reason why inflation was probably higher was because of oil and the CPI report, but we're taking profit on the way up. And when oil comes down, we will be buying back into the dip on the way down. So there's that. As for Webull, we have our positions here up in Webull. We have actually not added to anything on this platform except one of our current swing trades. As you can see here, ALT, our cost basis is down to $4.11 a share. We got like a lot of bullish stuff here. The price is moving above the EMAs. You got downward channel, which is typically bullish, and an inverse head and shoulders broke the pattern and moved up. So what is our game plan with ALT? Well, basically what we're looking to do is hold this thing until at least gets up to this resistance here. And we do think it's going to start heading in that direction soon. And you guys can see that it received a buy rating from JPM Securities. That's a big deal. So pretty much what we're looking to do is just sell up here at 16, 17 bucks. That would give us about a 4x on our money. And then we would decide to do what we want to do with the funds from that point. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.